Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So I've been seeing recently on Sky News for the last few days, and it has been happening previous to this, and I suppose it really goes to the nature of what you believe the news should be. Should the news be a place where it's telling you about things that are actually happening, or should it be telling you what to think or do? And I think sometimes the media, especially independent media, which is the majority of it, I think crosses that line. I don't know whether they intentionally do it or not. And this is this example of this unvaccinated danger, which of course is only really to the unvaccinated. But I suppose there are some people that are maybe not vaccinated yet that want to be. But they've been putting a lot of stories out about people who have been listening to, I suppose, YouTube. And I know there's lots of stuff out there, and I'm not advising anyone not to take it. I've taken it myself. I haven't taken it because it's the best thing to do, or I've researched it and found out it works, because there's no way of knowing that. The reason I've taken it, like I explained before, is out of fear, because I don't want to be a person that doesn't take it and then dies of COVID-19 if it does exist in the way that we're led to believe. So that's the reason I'm taking it. I'm taking it based on my programming of believing or trusting those people that have been put in a position in the pharmaceutical and hospital industry. And I guess there's more evidence of them doing good than bad. I know there's a lot of money making out of it, but what I really wanted to talk about was this idea of, was on Sky News, I saw it, where they were talking about this guy who lost 3 members of his family because they were scared to vaccinate because of things they'd heard on social media. I don't know whether they may have even watched, mainstream media and been scared of the things, Obviously recently they've talked about Pfizer and Moderna may have problems with kidney and some kind of allergic reaction. So I don't really know. I know some people are worried about testing, whether we're the lab rats, how much testing has been taking place. They say it's the same amount of testing, but I don't know whether it is because of all these things that are coming up now of these complications, or is it because all these vaccines have had this? It's just this one is being scrutinized the hardest, and maybe previously people have been vaccinated and had problems afterwards and not realized it was to do with that. But yeah, the thing I'm drifting off again is to do with Sky News, that it's reporting on this grief of this person who hasn't been vaccinated, and they've had a few of these things now, which is, it's like they're the mouthpiece of the government, which of course is the BBC in this country. I don't know why Sky are doing that then. Why is it? Because they think it's the right thing to do? Because it's not technically news, is it? Whether people decide, which is, I assume, their human right, whether they want to be vaccinated or not. Some people in some countries are very scared of it because of historical reasons, of way they've been poisoned before via fake vaccinations, especially in Africa and India and places like that. There's lots of history of why people may be reticent to take it up. But yeah, my key question is the media's role in this. Why is it reporting on the story? And then the other day there was another story of someone who was scared to vaccinate and ended up dying. And the fact is how you can manipulate a story. You got one person out of, when the UK was it 60 million people plus, and one person didn't vaccinate because they saw something on, say, YouTube and then died. And then the narrative is that, oh dear, stop watching YouTube, start getting vaccinated, or you're going to die. But they could have easily have picked someone who's been vaccinated and has also died of, say, COVID-19. I assume Sky News actually did do any diligent research into checking the death certificate of the people to make sure it did say they died of COVID-19, whether the actual process of finding whether someone dies of COVID-19 is actually accurate. I suspect they didn't do any of those things. And so then it comes like, well, who's fact-checking the fact checkers or the people that we're meant to believe? because we don't know what research they do and don't do, but they just put the story out there, because never let facts get in the way of a good story. That's the maxim of the newsprint media and the media in general when it comes to news. But what I'm trying to say is you could have easily picked someone who had COVID vaccinations and still died, because there are COVID people that are ending up in hospital. That I've seen that on Sky News. So, and as we all know, not everyone's going to get antibody reaction. It's not 100%. And it's funny how everyone's sort of saying, it's because of the vaccination you're dying. Well, it's actually the immune system. The immune system is what keeps you alive. You may have not been vaccinated and have not a good immune system, or an underlying condition you don't even know you have, say like cancer or something that's in the early stages, or asthma that doesn't always come out in people. And it's your immune system. The vaccination is helping your immune system, but it's actually working with your immune system. So, to sort of say that, people are not vaccinated, they're just letting their immune system do it. Well, that's what it's doing anyway, even if you're vaccinated. But what I'm trying to say is, if the media picked, say, and this is accurate because they picked someone who wasn't vaccinated and died. If they picked someone who was vaccinated and died and put it on the TV, then what would that narrative be? The narrative would be, say like the vaccine, this was wasn't happening much here, and there was a Russian vaccine and people are dying of it in Russia, and then they would be saying, look how the Russian state is killing people with this vaccine that's not been tested properly. And that would be their narrative then. But they wouldn't do it here. But I'm sure if we looked at the data, we would see that people who are not vaccinated, which were the original people who did used to die of COVID-19 historically, and you will find that people who have been, say, 1 vaccinated or 2 vaccinated, plus the 28 days, who have still managed to die because their immune system isn't strong enough still, or they're the people that didn't get the 80% protection, or they're the people who didn't get antibodies out of it, or they've already the antibodies haven't lasted that long because they don't really know how long they do last. And so therefore, if they put that story out there, obviously the government say, that's scaremongering. You're scaremongering people. Now people aren't going to get vaccinated. But that's what I'm trying to show you, is that not that there's both sides to the story. There's only one truth. But what I mean is you can illustrate different points to create different narratives. And that's where it becomes questionable when the media gets involved in those kinds of things, because they could easily pick whichever side they were. Say if there were some people that were anti-vax and they were, say, a mainstream channel, and there isn't one, but if there was, and then they could easily pick that one person that was vaccinated and died. Would that be accurate? Would the government say, well, that's not a fair representation of the situation? Well, wait a minute, but you don't say that when it's going in your favour. So that's what I want you to think about when you see these news stories, is how accurate and which is propaganda. The person was saying that the stuff on YouTube is propaganda. Well, possibly it is, but wait a minute, what is TV? Because it's telling you what to think without actually giving you truthful, accurate information, because it's not accurate to try and suggest just because you're not vaccinated that you're going to die of COVID. You could be vaccinated and die of COVID. So, unless there's statistics, they need to pull up, because they're never going to do that. They're never going to show you the actual amounts of people that this, that and the other that are dying with these things, because it probably isn't in their favour, or it's not enough in their favour, because they don't want to share that there's people who are still vaccinated and dying of it, because then it questions, well, wait a minute, what's the vaccination doing then? Of course, it may still be doing it, because nothing's ever 100%. And it all depends on how good your immune system was to start off with, which no one's ever checked, unless you have certain medical conditions and then they check it. So that's what I want you to think about when you see things on the news. Question it, and question, wait a minute, are you being manipulated? Are you being sold a narrative that may not actually have factual truth in it? Take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.